now that the perception is that Spotify's not paying artists for their streams, will they stop buying beats?
But that's what
the money's going. We need to stop. Hold on. Hey, you can't win. Like,
there's a hierarchy there.
Allegedly.
No. My issue is what.
How we know
what
that
you
we're
said.
doing this program in the first place? It could be a fake program.
We're not, and we are fake according to a lot of the comments. What's going down? It's the podcast that we do. And, people have, and I appreciate this, people have suggested names. Somebody, I think it was Seymour, he accidentally suggested a name. It was called like Conflict Homies. It was something, he didn't suggest the name. He just said, I love when Dame and Aaron go at each other. Here we go. Rival. I
read that comment, but I'm like, we don't go at each other. Or like, there's something about like us being like at odds with each other, and I'm like, it's a healthy disagreement.
Well, yeah, but he put a name to it, which was rival-ish homies. I'm like, we could flesh that out a little bit and come up with a show name, because sometimes we argue and disagree, and we still love each other. So,
I mean, until further notice, to me, it's the MEC podcast. I don't, I still don't have any updates.
What if we called it Until Further Notice?
That works too.
I can't imagine there's not I'll look it up.
I'm about to look, because I'm sure there's somebody who has that.
Okay, so Spotify finally released its evil plan, the details of it at least. And we weren't sure about the threshold. So a lot of people were telling me in the comments, well, I guess telling all of us in the comments that it was going to be a payment threshold. It's not exactly a payment threshold. It's a streams threshold to become eligible for payment, which is different in the sense that virtually all payments in the music business and in the creative space involve a threshold. So, for example, royalties. At a record label, you have to hit, $50 or $100, depending on the label, for you to even get paid. So if you have $99 in your account, but their payment threshold is $100, you're not getting a royalty check until that until that 99 becomes 100, which is, it's frustrating, whatever. I mean, I've gotten royalty checks for 2 cents. It just depends on the organization that is sending you those royalties. However, with Spotify, you will not receive royalties on a song unless that song has reached 1,000 streams within a year period. So is that correct? That's how I understand it.
Yeah, and then it renews every year. So if once you hit 1,000, if the next year you only get 600, you're not getting paid off of those 600 streams.
And if you hit 999 one year and 999 the following year, you don't get paid.
Never getting paid.
Yeah.
So now that we know what the threshold is, does it change either of your, because it definitely doesn't change my stance. Does it change your stance from, because I told you, let's just wait till the threshold comes out, see exactly what we're talking about. Does it change either of your opinions?
No, I still think that it's a intellectual property rights holders issue. Again, my stance was that it's nominal, so it's going to affect people that it really won't affect. I think just the bigger stance that that Spotify is able to say, your shares aren't worth us paying out, therefore we can just not pay you out, I think speaks to a bigger issue. But as it stands, I'm with you, like for the bigger pot, for the bigger pie, for rights holders, like the only two artists that I represent, it's going to be good for them because the dispensation of the bigger pot is now coming to them. Hopefully, we don't know. It's going to be, again, nominal. We're not going to be able to tell. I think it's going to help out Spotify a lot. I think they're going to use this to...
Hold on, time out. Why does it help out Spotify?
because they don't have to pay out for the, like, so right now the music is sitting on servers, right? So they're paying for the servers and they're also paying the artist out. So now they're getting all of that money back where they don't have to pay out. You know what I'm saying? They're not paying out on both sides because there's so many songs being uploaded every day. So I think for Spotify, the payouts, all of that, they're going to retain more of more of the money that's coming in from the streams.
No, they still pay that money out. It's just getting distributed to the bigger artists.
But that's what I'm saying. How do we prove that? We don't know if, so say.
How do we prove? I mean, if that's going to be your stance, like, how do we prove like, how do we know that Spotify is not, keeping 50%,
but
not paying
that's
out
why I'm saying this is the ethics conversation. If you're willing to say there are rights holders that we're going to withhold money from to pay out to a bigger pot, my thought process now is this is an antitrust situation. We already had enough reason to be like, we don't know, like, what is the value of a stream, et cetera, et cetera. Now they're saying, even if you get that stream, the value that we set, it's not worth it. And I get it. YouTube does it. Instagram does it. It's just retroactively. So my thought process is if all the money goes back into a bigger pool, yes, my artist will be affected positively, but the assumption that it's all coming back out to the artist, but also the payout portals. Like if I'm paying out to less people, that's less time, that's less energy, that's less account managers. So regardless, Spotify is still going to retain more money. This is a money conversation at the end of the day for them. Like they want to be able to retain more of it. They're complaining about the energy that it takes, the servers, all these different things. Like when they're talking through, like I was listening to Brandman Network this morning, talk through it. And Sean and Corey were saying basically it all comes back down to dollars and cents. Spotify has not been profitable for all these years. They brought on even more investors, and they're saying, like, what's a better way for us to recapture the energy that we're spending to create a platform like this? Do you know what I'm saying? So I feel like to say it's not about money is insane because this is corporate America. Well, it's a global corporate company. Do you know what I'm saying?
But everything that you just said, so I'm sure that like all that stuff is automated, whether they pay out, so that there might be some savings there, but this change in particular to me isn't really about money. I mean, yeah, you can say, well, what if they don't pay out? We have to just go by what is being communicated in the articles. It's all that money is still getting paid out. So this change in particular, I don't really see like a huge net benefit from a financial perspective back to Spotify.
I think that also the financial benefit comes back to them basically creating a threshold so that less people are uploading to. I think they are trying to stop the incessant uploading of tracks. Do you know what I'm saying? Because if this is a threshold, if going back to somebody like Chad Focus, granted, he's hitting more than 300 or 1,000 streams in a year, but he's saying like, okay, I'm putting the bots behind 200 streams. I'm going to put it so low that it's undetectable. So I think about like how many other people are like, I know because that was part of the thing when Music Business Weekly first was saying, they're trying to combat fake streaming. So this is part of it. I think, yes, minutely when it comes to the payouts, it's not specifically I'm implying that it's a money play and it's not guaranteed that it is. So I recognize that. I think it's a money play specifically when it comes to payouts. But overall, this threshold to me seems to be a money play regardless.
Yeah, I'm still in the same stance. People need to understand that who this is affecting is. So I used to I still work with a comedian named Minx. Like he dropped the song. He don't even care about the song. Like this is 1,000 streams, which is $3, like $3 to $4. So to me, I mean, if you're in the camp that says this is unethical, I could rock with that. Like I understand, but again, other platforms are doing the same thing, and it's never caused a hoopla. I can't get monetized on Twitter because my tweets don't get enough impressions. Ja can't even get
monetizing on Twitter was something that was introduced like decades after Twitter came out. Whereas with Spotify, it's always been monetized. And then they kept dropping the number, and then they moved it up a little bit. And then discovery mode, it just seems like they're consistently trying to take money from rights. Again, I'm coming from an ethical perspective. I feel like if you are an artist and you're only making $4 or $5 per song, like, it's a hobby. So like, if somebody is mad at this, I feel like you're missing your energy. You could spend your energy promoting your song better. So I'm with you on that, Dame. I just want to say, ethically, I feel like it's another big company saying that I'm devaluing the value of this art, even though it already had this space for it. It already had a value. It had a number. And I'm saying now I'm taking this and I'm redistributing it. And I feel like that's not a great stance, but I'm with you as far as people who are doing this full time. This doesn't affect you. People who are actually, you know, like getting a ton of streams or growing a fan base, this doesn't affect you. And people who are close to that threshold, hopefully this pushes you to go over. So I want to say that because I think you think that I'm just like, people who have 100 streams need to be whatever. I just think there has to be value. Like, people have to be valued more. And I think it's just the fact that there's no oversight is what bothers me with this.
Yeah. I mean, I just want people to have clarity on this issue, because most people watching this, it doesn't even apply to you, and they'll use this issue that doesn't even apply to them to like piggyback the argument of like needing more per stream or something. Like, see, Spotify's doing it again. It's like, well, this is not even affecting you. Matter of fact, it's actually benefiting you. So don't use this issue to piggyback another issue to make a greater argument. Which
somebody in our comments said that they should be paying out closer, I think it was $20 per stream or $2 per stream, something that was wild. And I'm like, Spotify is already not profitable. There's no way they wouldn't make it a day without being bankrupt.
Yeah, I mean, really, I think it's just streaming that, you know, if Spotify really is paying out, and that, I guess you can challenge that. Well, how do we know they're really paying out? If they're paying out 70% of their income, it's like, how much more do we want them of the revenue? How much more do we want them to pay out? Like, again, I'm in the camp of, yeah, I will always want artists to make more. At the same time, I work at Two Loss, where I'm seeing artists crushing it. So it's working for a shitload of people. So it can't be all bad. And that number just can't. I keep getting introduced to more and more artists. There was an artist, one of the A&R cast said, hey, have you ever heard of Flying Fish? Hell no, I haven't heard of Flying Fish, but he's 1.2 million monthly listeners, and he's just making songs in his bedroom. So people are figuring this out, and it's just frustrating for the people that haven't been able to get the traction. I get it. But I think we're fighting the wrong battle. Like, just fight this one in particular, I think, is a net positive in terms of all of the changes they've made. And I think we're just, you know, people are just frustrated. So anything that comes out that's like borderline frustrating or a little confusing, it's like, all right, let's continue to use that to add on to my frustration.
Well, but I think that there are valid concerns surrounding that. So the way I look at it is twofold. One, there are the ethical / legal concerns, but then there are also the current concerns with regard to overall artist morale, because that affects all of us. And my concern is that now that Spotify is saying, all right, you only get 1,000 streams on a song, we're not paying you anything. The vast majority of songs on Spotify don't even come close to 1,000, which, you know, that's on the artist. However, the perception is always aspirational. We could get a lot of streams. We could go viral. If the artists aren't working, that's not going to happen. However, there's this kind of trickle down effect where I'm wondering if, now that the perception is that Spotify is not paying artists for their streams, will artists stop investing in other services that keep the music economy going? Like beats, will they stop buying beats? Will they stop buying engineering? Will they stop
No,
working.
that's only the perception because people keep saying dumb shit. Like that's not the reality.
Well, yeah,
Like,
it's the perception, but it matters. I'm saying the perception has affected and informed the actions of a lot of people.
And I feel like I feel like the people that you're referring to morale wise, I gotta
need
think
to stop. I think
I
they
gotta
need
think
to
of
stop.
I gotta think of a respectful way to say this.
No, they're disrespectful. They need to stop.
No, Dave. It's like because I feel like the value of art is still there. And I feel like the vast majority of producers, especially producers who are selling a lot on BeatStars, are selling to artists who are more hobbyists than career artists, right? So
Right.
I do agree that the morale matters, but I also feel like Payne, these people may be averaging $10 or $15 a year, 20, even if it's $200 a year, they're still by and large spending way more money on the music. If they're buying 10 to 15 beats, if they have a microphone, whatever. So I don't feel like them losing a handful of dollars is about to stop them from buying beats because they weren't making money off their music anyways.
Yo, if this change destroys your morale, then this isn't for you. Like if saying you have to get 1,000 streams before you get paid out, and you're like, oh man, the industry's rigged. It's against me. I don't even know if I'm gonna make music anymore. Then stop. Like it's not for you at all. So you telling me if this changes your morale, or like affects your morale in any kind of way? Yeah, nah.
But you got it. We're dealing with artists though, Dame, and I'm not at all. I'm not saying that this isn't. I'm agreeing with you. I just feel like it's a reasonable question because if 30 per or 40, we don't know if a vast majority of the market now feels affected by a change, even if it's momentary, and so many people are like, man, F music, is that going to affect the sales? Because Payne asked this on Twitter, what was it, 2 days ago? And I was like, how is it going to affect producers? But then when I started thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, if people are like, man, there's no hope for me anyways. Granted, there probably wasn't much for you already.
Right.
But the metric gave you being able to see your numbers online, and the thought process gave you a little bit of hope. And maybe this is the first time or another thing that's added to your hopeless bucket. And you're like, I'm going to give it up. I think the market will always refresh itself. I think that there are Brandman Sean was saying this. He said when he got a job, he got a new manager and everybody was complaining, but he was like, I don't care. I just got here. Right. So the new people coming in are like, okay, that's the standard. The young cats, whatever. But right now, I do think that this may create a little bit of washout. I don't disagree with you that these people maybe need to be washed out of the free market, but I think their value as artists is still there. But I think it's a reasonable question that Payne is asking, like, will this shake enough people's morale to where even if it's only a few weeks, it's like the pandemic. When the pandemic first happened, people were like bulk buying food and freaking out. And then it mellowed out. But it's like, it could be something, it may not be, but it could be something that creates a shift in the way that people spend.
Here's my thing. Do you guys know a single artist that this is going to affect?
I know a ton of them. How do they approach music? I know a few of them that are pretty serious.
Okay, well, that's you. I don't know anybody, and I know a shitload of artists. I've been in this since 2008. I don't know any artist that this is going to affect. Literally nobody that tells me that it's not even going to affect my brother, and he hasn't put out music in a hell of a long time, like in a while.
I get it, and I feel like that's reasonable, but my Twitter feed is full of indie artists who have just been like, Spotify's robbing from the poor to pay the rich, and I'm like, slow your roll, but it is going to affect. Or I know a couple artists who have, 30, 40, 50 songs out, but only 5 or 6 of them have 1,000 plays per year. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, it's going to affect. So we have a partnership with a company called Make It, where it's just more people that don't really, it's like, I think it's AI, a little bit like part AI generated music. So it's a lot of songs getting distributed because people are just having fun with it, right? There's a lot of like people that have started making songs. I'm not even going to call them artists yet because they probably wouldn't even call themselves artists. It's become easier to make songs. AI, has made that easier, and we're distributing like a lot of songs weekly. It's going to affect people like that. And it's going to affect people like the comedian that I work with who just wanted a song out there to pair with a sketch, and he doesn't really care about the music and how it performs. Again, most of the money that we're talking about is just sitting in accounts. Like it's never even withdrawn. It's just sitting in. It's going to impact distributors way more than it's going to impact artists. Like the money that we're talking about is so small that it's literally just sitting in accounts. And if you told somebody, hey, you have $2.31 sitting in your account, oh, I didn't even know. It wasn't even going to touch it at all. I think it would have been a better PR look for Spotify to say, hey, we're not paying this money out, but we're going to put it in a fund to, give to up and coming artists, or some kind of fund, or, fellowship or something where we're trying to encourage artists. That would have been a better PR play, and nobody would have been mad at that, but it would have been the same thing. Well, it
would have been a lie too, because they're not giving shit to up and coming artists. We know where that money's going.
But that's what
the money's going to. We need to stop. Hold on. We need to stop this because we're contributing to the lie. Now, if we discover a few months down the road that actually Spotify wasn't paying any of this out, they were just pocketing the money or investing in their podcast business, that's fine. But the money is going back to all of that money is going back to artists that do have 1,000+ streams on their songs.
Right. Yeah, but
you can't win. Like,
there's a hierarchy there.
Allegedly, because they haven't been explicit about that either.
So what? So, when we read articles, then we just got to be just like, then we don't believe anything then.
No. My issue is what,
how we know
what
that
you
we're
said.
doing this program in the first place. It could be a fake program.
We're not, and we are fake according to a lot of the comments. But what my issue is with what you said, Dame, was that you implied that this money was going to up and coming artists. To me, they've never said that.
Hold on. I said it's the artists that actually do qualify for monetization.
Right. So there's a hierarchy. There's a hierarchy there, and not all streams are equal. It's like black box royalties with the PROs. I look at it very similar to black box royalties. So if there's unclaimed money, and it's not money that's going to really affect anyone, it's not going to change their life. $5 here, $10 there, $3 there. And sometimes it's actually significant, and it's just a matter of people not registering.
I was about to say, there's a ton of I had an artist this year that had over $100,000.
Holy shit.
Because they had a team that was not, their team was dumbasses, but they had, you know what I'm saying? And they recovered some of it, but once it goes to the black box, you can't recover it. So I don't know how many hundreds of thousands this person lost out on, but.
Well, and in a similar way, we don't know, the artists themselves that aren't getting that money don't know how much money they're not getting. But at least with Spotify, it's far less significant because once you hit that threshold, you're getting paid. The PRO situation is different. That's more of a clerical error. But that black box money is distributed among the most deserving artists, which are the artists who make the most royalties to begin with. It incentivizes them to stay with the same PRO. Spotify has not explained how they're dividing this money out. My assumption is, based on my experience in the music business, it will be similar in the sense that whoever is at the top of the streaming charts, which just so happens to be virtually all UMG artists and a lot of Sony and a lot of WMG artists, no independent artists, no unsigned artists, they're going to get the bulk of it because their streams are already more valuable than, say, someone who just broke that 1,000 stream threshold. Someone who hit 1,001 streams is not going to get a huge benefit from this the same way that.
Not even 1,000 stream threshold. I'm talking about even the million monthly listeners.
Yeah.
Dame is talking
so there's where you should focus your argument, like on how Spotify pays out royalties and wanting to and us wanting to shift to a user-centric model. That's a fair argument. Like, I mean, to me,
that's what goes back to my unethical thing. I'm saying if they're doing it at this level, that's why I was saying allegedly, because my thing is, if they're doing it at this level, to what end are they allowed to do this? I think the whole thing is botched. But if I say that, then it's like I don't have any basis for it. So then I'm starting a rumor mill. But I'm saying if you can literally say there's nobody regulating this, hey, we're taking your money, then my thought is, okay, how are my artists getting paid out more? That's why I said I feel like it's going to be nominal. We're not even going to see the difference. But who is going to see the difference is Drake, Justin Bieber, Ariana Grande. Do you know what I'm saying? And respect to that, but it's like, if we're really being honest, this whole Spotify conversation doesn't even it does affect you, Dan, because you work for a distributor, but it really doesn't even affect me and the creators that I work with, because we're sitting anywhere between 250,000 and 1 million monthly listeners with the ones that I currently work with. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like that we're not going to see the redistribution of the funds of all their homies who aren't getting paid out. And that's where I'm like, the whole thing, again, we don't know, but it's to me an antitrust issue.
Yeah. I mean, but I can't debate if your assumption is that some of the stuff we're reading is not real. And it's a fair assumption to have, but it's pointless for me to have the conversation if you're just telling me like, hey, well, we don't know what's going to happen with it. Like, I would prefer to just not a ton of clarity. Like, okay. I mean, it's going to be distributed like they distribute all the royalties. And if you're telling me, well, how do we know they're going to do that? I'm going to work for Spotify, and I can't say that for sure. Like,
I'm not saying I don't know if they're going to do it. I'm saying I don't know if it's trickling down to us. I'm saying, yeah, they said over the next 5 years, they're going to distribute 2-point-something billion, or I don't remember the number, but it's like over the next several years, there's going to be several billion redistributed back into creators. And I'm saying,
several billion? Where do they get that number from?
Is it maybe it's billion streams. I need to go back to the Music Business Weekly, but they said over the next, I think it was either 5 or 6 years, something like that, the money will be redistributed. All I'm saying is, sure, the money's going to be redistributed. I'll take that. I'll say I believe that. But is it coming to me? Is it coming to my artists? Is it coming to Caleb Mitchell and Wande? I don't know. And I don't know, how are we going to be able to see that if we grow to 750 million or 750,000 monthly listeners versus this year we're at 500,000, is it actually that there's been a redistribution, or is it that our monthly listeners have grown? Do you know what I'm saying?
My understanding is it's going to go into the pot and it's going to be based on market share, just like regular royalty streaming payments are made every month. So yeah, the people at the top are going to benefit more. But that's not an issue. That's not really an issue with this new program. It's an issue with royalty payments at large, right?
Yeah.
How people are paying and how artists are getting paid out. And if you want to have that argument, I think that's a valid and worthy argument to have, and it's worth our time, but not this stuff. Like, this is the smaller like leaf of a bigger problem.
Well, let me end on this question then. And this was something I brought up the last time, but Mark Tavern talked about it as well. Now that we have the numbers, right? So a lot of people are comparing the Spotify threshold to the YouTube threshold. YouTube won't let you monetize your channel until you've reached 1,000 subscribers or you have 4,000 hours of watch time on your channel. However, when you release your music through a distributor and they place it on YouTube, you're monetizing it immediately. Why? Because that's how intellectual property law works. So I can't compare it to a tweet, because a tweet doesn't come with two distinct copyrights that are generating royalties on that particular platform. You don't get royalties every time someone reads your words. You do get royalties when someone purchases a book, but that's a separate method of royalty payment. Mark Tavern's asking, the same question, mechanical and public performance royalties are still payable for these 1,000 streams by law, but Spotify can just make them royalty free by fiat. Is this pennies to an individual artist? Yes. So to speak to Dane's point, it's not really a hill worth dying on if you're just solely focusing on the money. But are there a lot of artists with fewer than 1,000 streams? Yes. Does that mean Spotify should be able to devalue the work of those artists by deciding that the first X number of streams are for Spotify's or another artist's benefit? Mark Tavern says no. I just want to know how this works with regard to well-established, and I'm talking about established for over a century, laws that govern intellectual property, that govern public performance. Because Spotify, a stream is paying out on so many different royalties. One stream can be broken down into, master royalty, sound exchange royalty, depending on the platform, performance, public performance, mechanical. These are all terms that are grounded in law. So how can they just decide? And it's a slippery slope. What if next year they're like, you know what, we're going to switch it up to 2,000? Again, not much of an impact. I think Dame's argument still stands, but now we're just further eroding the law. I just want to know how that works. This is an argument. I just want to know how.
I don't know if they're still paying out on the publishing side in terms of mechanicals and whatnot. Maybe they just to make sure that they're abiding by the law. Or, I think that's going to be something that they're going to have to take up with Congress or the courts. The law is the law. So even though it is pennies, they're going to have to answer to that, but maybe they still plan on paying out on the publishing side.
Can they just not pay on the master? And then legally, how does that work? Can a label say, like when you were running Funk Volume, could you say, you know what, we're setting our master threshold for 20,000 copies. And if you don't sell 20,000 copies, we're keeping the master royalties, and we're not giving you whatever percentage you negotiated for.
No, but they also don't own the masters. Like Spotify doesn't. Like it's a different relationship. So of course I couldn't do that. But,
no, you're right, but I think that gives my argument more credence, because if you're the label and you do own the masters, you have more of a right to set a threshold on the master royalties, whereas Spotify doesn't own them. They're still the property of the rights holder, of the creator. How can Spotify decide that they're not going to pay on that side either?
I don't know. The people that care to fight this fight, they're going to have to figure it out. So
I hope someone does. They could just answer it pretty easily and just be like, either we haven't figured it out, number one, number two, we don't give a fuck, number three, here's the legal precedent for that. Talk to a lawyer. I'm curious. I want to talk to lawyers about this, but